So we came here to learn about disc recovery and nerve recovery. Today, we're going to talk about disc. We're talking about disc structure, and we're going to talk about how to use that to help with your recovery. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into that. Again, if you're watching, if you can relate to any of those stories, if any of that kind of touched you and you know, you seem to connect with one of the stories, go ahead and comment relate. Okay, and it may seem innocuous to just comment a word, but the reality is, as you comment a word, you start to sort of unleash something in yourself and you start to move forward. And it doesn't matter if you're listening now or in the future, get these comments going. I promise you, you will see the benefit. Okay, so let me get us set up on the right page. Let's see, pull this up. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we're going to start talking about discs. Okay, we're going to start talking about discs. We're going to talk about the structure of discs today. And let's see. Okay, so first, let's make sure we know what we're talking about. Okay, so what we're talking about is not this. Okay, so this is the spine, but I did want to show the spine because you may have an issue with your cervical spine. So there's these 7 cervical vertebrae, and between each pair of vertebrae is a disc. Okay, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But if you're suffering a cervical thing, go ahead and comment cervical. All right, and then we have these 12 thoracic vertebrae. Now, some people have a different number for these things, but fundamentally we have 12 thoracic vertebrae. If you're suffering a problem with your thoracic spine, okay, and we do have discs in between those vertebrae. If you're suffering a problem with your thoracic spine, go ahead and comment thoracic. And then we have lumbar. Okay, we got 5 lumbar. And then below the lumbar, we actually do have more vertebrae, but they're all fused together into this thing called the sacrum, and that ends at the coccyx, or the tailbone. Okay, so if you're having a lumbar issue, go ahead and comment lumbar. What I want to do at this point, though, let me shrink this just a little bit. What I want to do at this point is talk about another, oops, that's the wrong screen. Talk about another issue that can come up. Sorry, I'm just having trouble grabbing the image that I want. Okay, so there's another structure at the base of the spine. So remember, we said at the base of the spine is the sacrum and then the coccyx. The sacrum actually has 2 bones on either side of it, the ilium. Okay, and so this is the pelvis. What we're looking at is the pelvis. And I bring this up because some people have an issue with this joint. Okay, so we have the sacrum and ilium, and between the two is the sacroiliac joint. And so some people have an issue with that joint, and that can actually trigger functional problems that set you up for disc issues. Okay, so if you think you might have an SI joint issue, go ahead and comment SIJ. Okay, SIJ. All right, but let's keep going. Let's talk about this disc. Okay, so this is like a top view. All right, so if we pulled out one of those vertebrae and we're looking down on top of it, this would be a top view of the vertebra. Okay, and so on the back of the vertebra, we have this spinous process. Okay, it's kind of like a little wing that sticks up, and then we have transverse processes that go out to the sides. What we're looking at in the center here is actually the spinal cord. Okay, and we can see the spinal cord has kind of its own structure, and then there's some space around the spinal cord, hopefully. Okay, sometimes the disc will actually intrude on this space. And then from the spinal cord, we have these nerve roots. These nerve roots, it's where the nerves branch off from the spinal cord and then go out into the body. Okay, and as they go out into the body, they innervate our muscles and organs and all those other things. Okay, now what we're looking at down here, we're actually looking at the vertebral body. Okay, that's sort of this gray area around the outside, and then they give us a glimpse of the disc, the intervertebral disc. Okay, so when we're talking about discs, this is what we're talking about. Okay, and the disc has a structure. It has this outer layer called an annulus. Okay, and this is some super tough fibrous stuff. And it's a tissue. Okay, we're going to talk about how all of these things are living, even the bone. Okay, the bone is a living tissue of the body. But the disc is a living tissue. And then the inside of the disc, we have this nucleus pulposus, they call it, which is kind of like a dense gel. Okay, it's a dense gel-like substance. And again, it requires respiration. So a lot of times these tissues are referred to as avascular, but guess what? If they go completely avascular, then they die. And sometimes that's what starts happening to people. And that's when they start to have problems. So let's go and get a little different look at this disc. Okay, and so I'm not hiding these, I'm grabbing these from different websites. So you can see the location. If you want to go look at these, you can just hit pause and take down these locations and go look at these, visit these sites. Okay, so here's another view of the disc. And so the one on the left is, again, kind of a top view. And so now they're starting to kind of show us like these layers, right? These layers of the fibrous tissue that are part of this annulus. Okay, so remember the outer layer is the annulus. Okay, and then over here, we got a side view. On the right, we got a side view. And again, they're starting to show us some of the layers of this fibrous, dense, tough, durable fibrous outer layer. And then again, we can see the nucleus in the middle. Okay, but on this one on the right, now we get to see, like, so this is the vertebral body above. Okay, and then where the vertebral body and the disc connect is called the end plate. It's a cartilaginous end plate. So there's some cartilage there. And then we have the vertebral body below. And again, we see the end plate here, and that end plate's important. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that and some of the importance of that end plate here in just a second. But if this is feeling helpful to you, go ahead and comment helpful. Let me know I'm on the right path for you here. So because the goal here is that as you understand the structure, you start to understand the possibilities. Okay, so I'm not just giving a class on anatomy here. This is to understand the anatomy, to understand the structure of these tissues and how that lends towards recovery. All right. Okay. So, hey, so this is kind of like, we kind of got an angular view looking down on a disc. Okay. So this is an intervertebral disc. And so now we see these layers, okay, these layers of tissue and how there's all these different layers, right? Peeled back like an onion, right? But then now we see within the layers, okay, within the layers, there's these other layers, these, and this isn't exactly how it looks, but we have these other layers of fibrous units that crisscross and interweave, again, to create this super tough, durable tissue, okay? And so it's so super tough, it's so durable. How come it gets hurt, Jeff? Okay, so the point I'm making is that when this tissue is serviced well, meaning it gets good blood flow. Okay, so on the outside, if you look at me, I'm doing great, but if I don't eat or drink, I'm going to have problems. Or if I just hold my hand on my neck for too long, I'm going to have problems. It's because I'm not getting the nourishment I need or the substances I need for my body to survive. These tissues are no different. They need good blood flow. And a lot of people will have you believe that they don't get any blood flow, but that is completely erroneous. And we're going to talk about that. Okay, so in the middle, again, we have the nucleus pulposus. And so they're making it look kind of globular here. This stuff also needs nourishment. It needs steady, consistent nourishment. And so we're going to talk about that here quickly. All right, so let me get this picture in a little better spot for you. So I love this one. Okay, now we're getting down to some nitty gritty here. Okay, so the gray stuff on the left here, the gray stuff above is the vertebral body, and the gray stuff below, again, another vertebral body. And then between the two is an intervertebral disc. Okay, and so kind of the light blue outer layer here is showing the annulus. Okay, and the inside is the nucleus pulposus. But now let's look at this end plate. Okay, so we have this vertebral body above, and we have this end plate, the cartilaginous end plate, right? Cartilage, again, we're told cartilage is an avascular tissue, but guess what? It's a tissue. It needs nourishment. So there are blood vessels that go around it and through it. And these blood vessels actually also enter and service the annulus, and they provide the nutrients, and they provide we'll talk about the nucleus real quick, the gel center. They provide the nutrients that the nucleus needs, and they also provide an exit plan for the waste that can build up, okay, in the nucleus. So they help the nucleus to respirate. And the annulus, so you can see here's some blood vessels on the side here they're showing, and the blood vessels actually enter the annulus. So there's actually blood vessels that enter the annulus. And so the annulus itself is receiving a blood supply. Is it massive? No. Can it be improved? Heck yeah. Okay, there are things you can do to help improve this circulation, help improve this blood flow, and help improve the density of these capillary beds. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you is just by looking at the structure clearly, okay, clearly we're looking at a living tissue that's serviced by these respiration pathways. It's a cardiorespiratory system, right? It's these blood vessels, okay, are helping this tissue to respirate. And then, so on the right here, this is kind of cool. It talks about like metabolites and density, and it kind of gives you an idea that this nucleus, again, it relies on the blood supply at the end plates. It also relies on some of the blood supply that the annulus itself gets. So again, hey, if this is making some wires fire in your brain and you're starting to go, okay, like I can see something here, comment helpful, okay? Help me know that I'm giving you what it is you need to be successful, because that's really the goal here. Okay, so we're gonna move along. Next one. Okay, so I like this one too, because this one kind of shows what is going on with a healthy disc and what's going on with a degenerative disc, a disc that is becoming unhealthy. Okay, we said healthy disc and degenerative disc. We can say healthy and unhealthy. Okay, and so the reality is that an unhealthy disc can start to become healthy again. Okay, it can start to become healthy again, but it needs certain things in order to do that. So let's look healthy disc, right? So we got the blood vessels, we got the cartilaginous end plate, we got the annulus here, the layered fibrous annulus, we got the blood supply to the annulus, and then we have the nucleus pulposus. And so nucleus pulposus, let's talk about that real quick, because over here you can see the nucleus is kind of crumbling, right? And they're saying loss of hydration, matrix imbalance, increase of inflammation, okay? So what happens in this case is that the pump isn't working. And what I mean by that is the nucleus pulposus, it relies on alternating compression and decompression. Okay, alternating compression and decompression is the best way to service the nucleus pulposus. So a lot of times people try and just do traction. Okay, a lot of times people will try and just do traction. And traction can actually pull some fluid in, but it's not restoring that pumping function of the nucleus pulposus. And it's not, again, so the annulus actually relies on this sort of like alternating compression, decompression as well to stimulate the tissue to repair itself. Okay, so if we're just in this can actually happen over here on the right, can actually happen just from inactivity. It can happen just by sitting still. Okay, just by not doing things. So movement matters. Okay, momentum matters. These are the things that you have to rely on in order to get a good, healthy, and complete recovery. I'm going to go ahead and skip over to this other one. Let's go ahead and look at some of the disc injury and how that can show up in the body. All right, so we got the normal disc on top. So these aren't exact, okay, but again, you have the orange thing here is the vertebral body, okay, and we got the spinous process going off the back. Between this vertebra and this vertebra, we have the disc, okay, that's the intervertebral disc, and so they're just showing it like a gray thing, but you could say that that's the annulus, right? We can't see the nucleus right now. But then as we slide down, we see a degenerative disc. Okay, so this was above was a healthy disc. This disc below is not healthy. Okay, it's losing some of its height. Okay, because the pump isn't working and it's not getting the nutrition it needs. And so it's also not getting the waste out of it that it needs. And that actually causes other problems. And that's that inflammatory response that comes about. So then below that, now we see a bulging disc. So you can see on the back of this disc, which is where most discs bulge, is on the back of the disc. And it's bulging into this space. Okay. And this space, the nerve root actually comes out in this space. And so when we get down below, so now they're kind of separating bulging disc and herniated disc. Some people do, some people don't. So a herniated disc, now we're saying, oh gosh, we're actually taking up all of that space. And so probably there's pressure on the nerve. But hey, guess what, folks? You don't have to have pressure on the nerve to have irritation of the nerve. Please don't make that error in your thinking. The nerve can be irritated even without the disc actually physically pushing on it. And in an MRI is a decompressed state. You're laying down. And so in a decompressed state, this herniation can actually start to pull back in, or what we call reabsorb back in towards the disc. That doesn't mean it can't push back out again when you get back up. Okay, then we have a thinning disc. So this is a very unhealthy disc. Okay, it's lost a lot of height. There's almost no space here, and people look at this and say, "Hey, that's where it's going. That's its end result." Okay, and then the one below is similar. It's disc degeneration, but now we have some osteophyte formation. And what that means is some bony tissue forming, most typically where the cartilaginous layer is, but it can actually form kind of along on the outsides and is kind of an advanced stage of an unhealthy disc. Okay, let's see. I know I got more for you guys. Let me double check. Where am I at? Okay. That was a sacroiliac joint. Let me double check here because, you know what I didn't do? Sorry, on this one, the main reason I wanted this one, so I did want to see the healthy disc, degenerative disc, but hey, there's this little yellow fiber here. That's a nerve fiber. And guess where that nerve fiber goes? It actually goes into the disc. Okay, so a lot of times people think that the nerve as it exits the spinal cord and goes out the foramen, that has to be compressed in order to have pain. Well, it doesn't actually have to be compressed to be irritated. But then also the discs themselves have their own nervous system, have their own, not nervous system, but they have their own innervation. So they have nerves that go to the disc. So an injured disc can actually cause pain. Okay, an injured disc just by itself can actually cause pain. It's not typically the pain that you would have in a nerve root, but an injured disc can actually experience some pain. Okay, hey, so my goal here was to share information and inspiration. Okay, so I want you to have information, but I also want you to feel some inspiration. So if you feel some inspiration, go ahead and comment inspiration. Again, I don't care if you're watching now or if you're catching